5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
So there I am, 4 buttons later. Do you know what? It's going to be one of those shows tonight. Ant turns up half an hour early. Locks turns up with a giant slug on his top lips. And Kate's there showing her knickers off to the world. I mean, what else could go wrong with this show? I don't know. Probably everything. So God knows where this show's going to go. If nothing else, we're going to have a laugh. And I'll tell you something. We need that at the moment, don't we? Have you ever been as happy to have an international break before? Because I tell you what, I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm actually looking forward to watching England in an absolutely worthless World Cup qualifier against the mighty Albania, because if Harry Kane plays, we'll actually see a goal. Do you remember those things? Goals. It's when people put the ball into the back of the net. Now, I know what you're thinking. Surely we will see a lot of them. Well, I'm going to have to tell you, because I updated this the other day, 642 minutes since Leicester last scored a Premier League goal. Now, I have included stoppage time because you know me, I like to, don't waste my afternoons. I like to be spot on. 642 minutes. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I believe, and somebody will obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that if we get relegated, look at me, Mr. Optimistic here. When we get relegated, that this is going to be a record for the relegations from the Premier League. That may or may not be true. But look, that's what it's looking like at the moment. I mean, 9 points. We expect to get as many points in the last remaining games. That's a point per game, and score goals because look at the goal difference. But as many points as Southampton have got all season. I mean, Southampton are going to beat us, aren't we? Let's be honest. And how are the fans feeling about all this? Well, let's have a look at some comments that have been popping up on shows and on social media. You can, by the way, if you want, this has just appeared on the Leicester City website on the sales page. I was there when Leicester City scored a goal. 99p t-shirts. Get in there. They could be worth a fortune. Yeah. They could be. They won't. Chairman's message. Did you see this at the weekend? With 10 games of the season remaining, the task ahead of us remains very clear, and our focus on that task must remain absolute. Everyone at the club continues to work and do everything we can to support the team in securing the results we need to stay in the Premier League. Whatever the circumstances, we'll continue to fight and believe until the very end. Continue to fight. Will somebody tell me when that fight actually started? Because I think I must have been asleep. I must have missed it. That if you ever want to use, I mean, I know Ant's a teacher, so if everyone wants to sort of teach his children what BS is, Just bring that up, Ant. James said, as of today, the club will not get another penny out of me. No more tickets, merchandise, any form of expenditure until we get some words on direction and accountability. I love my club, but I'm done. That was in the post-match reaction after the Man United game. Shindit, and I had to check I'd spelt that right. Fans should boycott the next game and let them play in an empty stadium on national TV. How else can the fans express their disappointment over the demise of a once proud and ambitious club? I won't be there. Shelley Boy, been watching the City since 1959 and have experienced many ups and downs. Never during the bad times have I seen so much apathy from the players, incompetent management and poor leadership at the helms. Unfortunately, last season for me, as there seems no inclination from the owner to change the structure at the club. Tony Smith, very good question. We'll be coming back to this later. Have we fans relegated us by getting Cooper sacked? It's our own fault. And again, that's a very good point. Now, Kate, do check her out because it's her turn this week on the BBC, bbc.co.uk/Leicester City. It would be a dramatic roll of the dice if we were to change managers again this season, but for the sake of a summer rebuild and the need for a safe pair of hands, I do think this option has to be firmly on the table. We'll be asking about that later. And then I should have gone to Specsavers, I tell you. James, where do we go from here? Very good question. The fans' emotions have transitioned from anger and frustration to apathy and acceptance of their club fate. Well, where do we go from here? We'll be finding out because I'll be bringing my special guests in next, and we're going to be talking the fun topic of relegation. Good evening, one and all. First of all, good evening, Locks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, mate. Thanks for having me. It's all good until you start talking about the football, and then it's all shit. So,
we can talk about your sponsorship of your channel by Gillette if you like.
I wish. Yeah. Manscaped is the one now, isn't it, that everyone gets? Yeah.
That's the one. Do explain to everybody A, where you're from, and B, why you have got that thing on your top lip.
It's all because of Kate, actually. Yeah, she can't remember, but she but she said to me I should keep it, not shave it until Leicester City next win a game of football. So it's going to be a rough few months, I think. But the good thing is, it doesn't really get any.
Have to look at it.
Well, it doesn't get any worse than this. This is already like 6 weeks work. This is, Chris. So it's not going to get much more than that.
And of course, Blue Tinted Glasses is your channel. The link's in the description below. And how are you doing, sir? Have you got a watch, by the way? Do you own a watch? Do you own a watch?
No, it would be a good investment, I think. I think that's the second time I've showed up half an hour early, isn't it?
Well, I'm just glad you turned up, but, how'd you get on with your girlfriends? We won't go there. But thanks for joining us. And Bridget Jones there at the bottom with enormous knickers. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right. Can I just explain to anybody that's only just joined us? Unfortunately, we didn't get it live, but she did have a Bridget Jones on display earlier.
So in there.
Yes.
Out of shop now.
I tell you what, I can cancel my subscription to Pornhub.
I wouldn't bother.
Why is anybody surprised that I come out with things like this? Locks, the last thing I said there, or the last comment I should say, was from James. Where do we go from here? So basically, first question to you, where do we go?
Well, we're going one place. That's the Championship. That's for sure. I think if we're talking about this season where we go from here, I'm not really sure, and I don't think Rude knows either. It feels now like we're just coasting. We're just counting down the games. I think all of the fans, now believe it will be championship next season. I think the players believe that too. I think Rude believes it, and Top probably believes it as well. There's none of that delusion now that there was. Do you remember the 22-23 season? There was like this weird delusion that nothing was wrong, it was all okay, and I think that's gone now. So yeah, mate, I don't know. I think what we should do, in my opinion, I mean, this is a topic for another day, but we should probably look at some of the youth now. I think start planning for next season. I think that's the only thing we can do, because we're going to talk about it, I'm sure, tonight, but a new manager, it ain't going to keep us up. Whether we should sack him or not anyway, that remains to be seen, but we're not going to stay up regardless. So plan for next season. The players that are going to be here, that might be difficult because some might still change their mind, but the players that you think are going to be here next season, focus on them, focus on them. And unfortunately, that does mean, maybe for Kondo, I mean, he's not played much anyway, but he's not going to be here next season. Focus on some others, get some youth in the team and see what they can do.
I tell you what, Locks, don't panic though. I mean, there's all this panic about we're going to be losing this player and that player. We're still going to have Ayew, Dakova Reed, Cody, Wink, Skip. What's there to worry about? I mean, what's the panic?
Well, you know what football fans are like, Chris. We'll drop down to the championship. Ayew will score 25 goals and fans will love him. That's just how it works. So, I think Ayew and Bobby D could overread, no matter what you think of them as what their best attributes are. We know pace isn't one of them, but they are good enough for the championship. That's just how it is. And if they play next season, if they're a part of the team, they'll do well in that division. I'm certain of that. So, fans are fickle. I'm fickle. You're fickle. Even Kate's fickle, believe it or not.
No, I won't have that said about her. Big forget, yeah, but not fickle. I draw the line.
Yeah, people forget a misfortune.
Westergaard, I mean, he turned into primetime Messi, so we live in hope, I guess, don't we? And Tony asked us there, have us fans got us relegated by getting Cooper sacked? Have we?
To be honest, if fans of a reason Cooper's got sacked, there needs to be even more questions at board level. It's like everything that came out at the time after the sacking was Top wasn't convinced by Cooper in the first place. It's like, I don't think he was the right appointment, but I don't think getting him sacked was a problem. It's like when we did get rid of him, bringing in Rude, I think, was a bigger issue than actually than getting rid of Cooper, because Rude's one of those managers, and I think we'll get onto it later. I've never had as little faith in a manager as I have in Rude, but he's one of those managers that if you're going to take a risk on him, you have to do it when you're almost in a stable position. So, say if Brentford or Brighton were going to get rid of a manager, Rude looked like that kind of sort of manager that there was maybe potential there, but it was such a risk at the time. It was like, I know like a huge amount of the fan base had turned on Cooper. I was probably one of the latter ones, that particularly online, to turn on him. But to go from Cooper, who, let's have it right, wasn't fantastic, to Rude, who, like, the more you look back on it, it's like, did that interim period at Man United where he spanked us twice in 4 weeks, that looks more and more like that had an influence on him getting the job. So, like, I do think that some fans sort of had something to do with it. I think if that's the case, then you need stronger leadership from the top, to be honest. I also think that our summer transfer window, regardless of whether it's Cooper or whoever the manager was setting up whoever was going to take charge this season in a really difficult situation. You look at that defence, and I know everyone likes to blame Cooper for everything in the summer. I'm almost certain he would not have been happy heading into this season with the defenders that we've got.
I think Locks looks like he disagrees with you there, but we'll come quickly. Locks,
Well, no. I think the signings are quite obviously Cooper's signing. I think Ant's right that he would have wanted more, and I think he even said he wanted more. But who's to say that the signings that were going to come later on in the window weren't just as bad as the ones that came earlier in the window? I think Ayew, I'm sure he's on the payroll of the Ayew family somehow. Cooper, I mean, he seems to love an Ayew. D. Cordova-Reid, Oliver Skipp, he played for Steve Cooper in that Youth World Cup winning team, I think. And we were linked with other players apparently that have played under Cooper. So I think he's, and we have heard in recent weeks from certain journalists that the manager basically has the final say with recruitment, with the player that comes in. So I think it probably is quite a lot to do with Steve Cooper, the recruitment.
Yeah, I don't doubt recruitment is, but I just don't think he got back to the level he should have been. And as much as Ayew now looks absolutely useless, if we're honest, under Cooper, whilst he wasn't fantastic, he was doing a job and he was picking points up for us. I think Oliver Skipp, like 25 million is ridiculous, but I can already see it now, and it was mentioned earlier. Him alongside Harry Winks next season probably going to be one of the best partnerships in the Championship. But
how did we know that Cooper was planning that far ahead? I want to bring Kate in because Kate, I've got a question for you here. But before we get on to your question, following on from what the lads were saying, are we finding in Steve Cooper that we've got a scapegoat here? Because when he came in, let's be honest with you, we just got promoted. Our manager had just walked out on us, and that was probably the start of everything going on because there was no sort of forward planning. Nobody particularly wanted the job, knowing that this was a club that had just got promoted and was probably about to get a huge points deduction, which we thought at that time. At least Cooper wanted the job. Is he becoming a scapegoat for everything that's wrong with this club at the moment?
Maybe a little bit. I think hindsight's always 20/20, isn't it? So there is that element. Like, I always thought we got rid of Cooper too early, but then I'm not at all of the opinion that we'd be in any different position even if Cooper was still in charge. So I just think he deserved a little bit more, considering that we were scoring in every game and kind of ticking along with the points that were required. But
remember that, Kate, scoring in every game.
Oh yeah, but how he held himself and how he seemed to manage the team was just not convincing at all. And I think the same would probably go for the transfer window. I do think massively that his transfer window, although that he was responsible for, and as Locke says, like, has the final say, a lot of those players wouldn't have been his first choice because we were massively hamstrung by the PSR umbrella that was looming. And then that PSR thing didn't play out. So it was almost like, like a false PSR that was holding us back a bit, really. So, I mean, a lot of fans always like to look at one thing. One thing is wrong, and if you change that one thing, then everything would be okay. And sometimes that conversation goes to the board. Sometimes it goes to Cooper. Sometimes it goes to Rude. Sometimes we get told Jamie Vardy runs the club. Like, there's lots of angles of it. But I think we had one shot at a really good transfer window in the summer, because it was such an important transfer window. And if that meant that you have to go back on your usual protocol and not allow the manager to have a final say and have people that are more involved in the club, because we appointed Cooper quite late on as well. Yeah. And then so be it. It wasn't handled that well as a summer window at all, considering how crucial it was.
I'm going to disagree with you on one thing, because I think everything that's going wrong at the club is about Faye's fault. Just putting it out there. I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to follow that up. But Kate, I mean, like I said, your blog is up to date. It's a really good read. bbc.co.uk/Leicester City. Do get over there and check it out. But you said it would be a dramatic roll of the dice if we were to change managers again this season. But should we do it now? When we got Rodgers in, he had 10 games or so of the season left to assess players, not in meaningless friendlies, which, let's be honest with you, you can't tell much from a friendly apart from how fit a player is. Get a manager in now while it's the international break, who maybe sort of look at the pile of turds that we've got and look at some of the youth and maybe get some of the youth through who we might have to rely on next season.
Yes, the thing that I would say there is I don't know whether that's a new permanent manager or an interim manager, but my personal view is that I don't think Rude is any part of the future of Leicester City. And when you make that decision about somebody, I think you've just got to cut ties and just cut your losses and run. We're not in a PSR issue this year. So we have some perhaps leeway there potentially. But even if we don't, like, you don't want anybody part of your club or employment that you don't think is going to form part of your future. And that's my personal opinion. I don't think he's part of our future. So I don't see why you're sort of putting off the inevitable.
No. Although Rob Tanner said on last night, in fact, that the PSR issue hasn't gone away; it's just sat in arbitration at the moment. Locks, would you change the manager now, even if it was going to PSR and taking us over because we've got to pay Rude off? But we're going to get hit by PSR probably anyway when we go down. Why don't we just say, sod it? If you're going to take 7 points off us, take 8. We're going to get a manager in now that can actually learn something about the team and maybe get us championship ready. And then, that be the manager that hopefully, I don't think he will bring us straight back up, but can sustain us in the championship and get us ready for promotion.
I mean, listen, this sounds terrible. I love a manager sacking. I mean, I'm one of the first. I
lots of views, doesn't it?
I lose my head, and I'm one of the first to say get him gone. But I can't see any point, mate. Honestly, I can't see any point unless you're going to unless you're just going to give it to an interim Andy King or whoever, Barry Murphy, whoever you want to give it to. I don't see the point because we know we're going down. Sean Dyche coming in or Big Sam or whoever you can think of coming in, they ain't going to keep us up either. It's done and dusted. And I think you just wait now because if PSR is playing a part, maybe they have to wait until the 30th of June to sack him. That sounds that sounds a long way down the line. Maybe they announce it first and the contract isn't, the contract termination isn't actually done legally until the 30th of June. I don't know the ins and outs, but I don't see any real positive to sacking him now other than just pleasing the fans, I suppose. Like, I just think it's too late. And, people will say there's always a chance as long as it's mathematically possible. I understand that. But if there is anyone out there who genuinely thinks Leicester City are going to stay up this season, I mean,
no, and I'm not saying that if we get, I think Sam Allardyce's boat has sailed. I think he's been out of the game too long now. Sean Dyche maybe, but we've got 2 weeks. Hopefully the board has been doing its job, although that's hoping a lot, isn't it? And maybe thinking about what might happen. I don't think, like Kate said, Rude isn't the guy to bring us back up, but we've got 2 weeks to get somebody in that will not be a short-term appointment just for the season, but maybe can work with Andy King and into next season, like you say, and bring us back up.
Can I just say, Chris, I just to clarify, like, if the plan is to sack Rude and just have the interims in charge for the rest, just see the season out, then I suppose I understand that more. But I don't think we should make an appointment for the long term now, because that manager is then going to come in and probably lose 7 games. So I think you do wait, and the pool of managers might actually be bigger in the summer because you don't know who's going to lose their job at their current clubs now. I think you wait until the summer before making a permanent long-term choice. Because so if you want to sack Rude, sack him, fine. But I don't think we should be bringing in anyone permanent yet. Not until the summer.
No, I wouldn't sack him if there wasn't a permanent option there, because what difference is it going to make, as you said? And you love a good Rude topic, don't you? And you said on a recent show that you have lost faith with Ruud van Nistelrooy quicker than any other manager. What could any other manager have done or done differently, or why? I was to say why you've lost faith. I mean, that's a stupid question, but talk us through that statement.
Well, it was this obsession with him going on about balance within a team, and the balance in the team's got worse week after week because it's been so sort of wanting to sort out the defence by playing Decordova, Reed and Ayew for absolutely ages, whilst it wasn't helping the defence at all, and it killed any attack that we had. And something that was mentioned earlier on about Buonanotte, since Cooper left, and as I say, I'm not Cooper's biggest fan, Buonanotte has looked like a shadow of the player that he was back then. Because at the time, we were talking around a £40 million fee was being reported in the summer. Don't think those numbers have been sort of bandied about for months now. So it's like we've got worse defensively, we've got worse going forward, yet we kept trying to do the same thing week after week after week. He finally tried to change something against Chelsea, but it's just too little too late.
True. I know this is a what ifs and hindsight. Do you think sticking with Cooper would have made that much difference?
I think we would still be in the fight with Cooper, but I still think that the end result would have been the same with us going down.
Yeah. Kate, look, when you look at the team, and somebody said in the comments that I put up right at the start, there's no fight, there's just nothing there. Could leaving Rude in charge for these last few weeks actually just cause more problems than maybe, like I say, going ahead with no manager, I think is a bit silly, but what damage could keeping Rude do to the morale, to the youngsters, to everybody at the club?
I don't think he's a poisonous character. I think he's probably quite liked and quite well respected. I'm not totally sure the players are totally engaged in his style of play because he's just not bearing any fruit at all. But I don't think he's necessarily a poisonous person at the club at all in that sense. So it depends what the club really want to do. I mean, it's probably looking odds on he won't be our manager when we're in the Championship. But I don't think he's bad blood, if you know what I mean. But the problem is that we're just not scoring goals, and that is so detrimental to your confidence and like your effort and your motivation as a team and as a collective. And that is because of his way of playing. And I just want to see a goal at the KP, for God's sake. I can't believe it seems quite a lot to ask all of a sudden, but it really is. And I just don't see the point of continuing with someone that isn't part of the future, like I've said. But at the same time, you don't want to look like another Watford. I think I agree with Locks in that I don't think a permanent manager necessarily should come straight in, and we should just take a breath, because it's one of the few times in a football season or in a football situation where you can actually afford to take a breath and really make the proper decision.
Yes, yeah. And there's a lot of comments in the chat as to suggestions. I don't want to get into the topic of actually naming names here. But Locks, look, relegation, it's going to happen. I mean, we're all saying when rather than if. I mean, as a club, and I put this in the question to you, that we are on a club on life support at the moment. We're literally, there's no sign of life. That line that goes across is just dead. Could Leicester potentially be another Luton Town, and we could look at being in the situation that they're in now next season?
When I'm angry, Chris, and emotional, I say yes.
Like me when I'm angry, I turn green and bulge out my trousers.
when I'm angry, I am fully on board with the Luton Town, parallels. I'm like, we're gonna go to League One, we're gonna be back in League One. But no, I don't believe that, mate. I don't think we will. And the reason for that is because we will have too much quality to get relegated to League One. I know that sounds crazy because we're like one of the worst teams. Yeah. Well, we look like one of the worst teams in Premier League history, but the team is still, I think, quality on paper much better than Luton Town's was last season. We're playing worse. But I think we've got a lot more quality. So even if we talk about Hermanson or Bilal or whoever else it is going to be that leaves in the summer, the shell will still be too good to get relegated to League One. I know I'm sure we'll talk about whether we'll come back up again, but I think we're safe from that. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But then again, we're hearing rumors about what the EFL want to do to us. I mean, I think the way we describe it on our channel is they are wanting to spread our cheeks, is what we say. So, and that's how it feels. It feels like that's coming. It feels that's what's coming. So, there's talk of points deductions and embargoes, and if they all happen, then who knows? But I think we might be okay.
And I was worried about my description of the EFL as the child catcher from Titty Titty Bang Bang. And you come out with the arse cheeks spreading.
I didn't say arse. I didn't say arse cheeks. I just said cheeks.
We know what you meant. Don't The interesting thing I was going to sidetrack here is obviously we played Chelsea a couple of weeks ago, and I had Chids from Chelsea Fancast on. He did my show, and then I went and did his for the preview. And the vast majority of Chelsea fans absolutely hate Enzo. And if you could take a snapshot of everything we were saying last season about boring football and not, coming through, and it's the same thing week in, week out, and just change your shirt, you've got that exact same conversation. They are not keen on Enzo. And very quickly, Ant, again, before I come on to your next question, I don't think we'd have been any better off if Enzo had stayed.
I do. I really do, because I think he's much better than Cooper and much better than Rude. But it's hard to say, isn't it? Because if Enzo had stayed, would we have signed Skip and all of players in the summer? Because we could have been in a massively different situation with who we brought in, and sort of, like, the squad could look massively different. So. On a fundamental level, if the squad was the same, I still think we would be in a better position than we are now. But I also think that the club would be looking in a much better position, because he was trying to reshuffle the board, and he wasn't happy with what was going on behind the scenes. Because he's someone, like, as much as some people moaned about his style of football, he came from the top of the top in terms of Man City, where they are run like clockwork, and he was trying to implement some of that at Leicester. So even if it hadn't been as good on the pitch and it had gone in a similar way of Russell Martin, I think it would have left us in a better position if we'd had the summer transfer window with him.
Okay, no, that's fine. As I said, I had Rob Tanner from The Athletic on the show last night, and he made it pretty clear that the relationship between Top and John Rudkin means that John Rudkin is not going to be sacked anytime soon from the club. Not saying that he won't change positions within the club, but he will not be sacked. For all he's done in recent years and over his father's accident, I think that sort of made the bond between them. But would you move John Rudkin to another role? And if so, what? And then, bring in a new director of football. And if so, does that have to be an ex-player? Or tell us your thoughts on that.
For me, if we do bring in a new director of football, I'd want it to be someone with absolutely no association with the club. I want it someone who's coming into it and looking at it as purely sort of the mess it is. Because when you've got people internal coming in, they're emotionally invested in it, and I feel like you'll be overly emotional about it. You look at the best directors of footballs, like most of them are not connected to the clubs that they work at. So I would like us to have a complete external.
They have some football experience. I mean, if you bring in somebody in with no football knowledge whatsoever, is that equally dangerous?
Yeah, well, that would be ridiculous to do. I think you need to go and get the best qualified person for the job. But I also think that it doesn't need to be a jobs for the boys. And this is where, and I know I'm unpopular with this. This is, how Wes Morgan's gone off to Forest, and I know some people really dislike that. For me, if there's not a role for him, as much as he is obviously the Premier League and FA Cup winning captain, we can't just give him a job because he's Wes Morgan. It's like we've got obviously Andy King now doing that job, which is fantastic. But you've got to have qualified people doing these roles, not just jobs for the boys.
No, I can just say that doesn't make you unpopular. People just don't like you anyway. Let's just make that clear here. Don't want to get anybody in any trouble. But yes, I think I agree with what you're saying. You need somebody that doesn't have the association with the club. And again, before I come on to your next question, Kate, people are shouting for Andy King to take over. Again, having somebody running the club that, there's associated as much as Andy King, Is that wrong? Should we have some? Well, that ties in with the question, which is, can you see Ruud as the manager to get us promoted? Which I think you've already said no. And if not, with the decision being massive for the club, what sort of manager would you appoint? Would you get somebody experienced like a Sean Dyche or a, dare I say, Scott Parker? We all laugh, but look at Burnley now. Experienced at the lower level, like when we got Mickey Adams or Mark Robbins, or upcoming but untried like Martin O'Neill? Or do we have somebody that knows the club like an Andy King?
Was that for me?
No, that's for Kate. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I don't know. It's an impossible question to answer, really. I think Andy King's probably a little bit premature, but then, there's other managers in the league that are younger than Andy King at the minute. So I wouldn't be against that as an option for an interim manager, but I think he's literally just rejoined the first team squad as a coach, hasn't he? So he's going to be very wet behind the ears. But this is what I mean about really being able to utilize and capitalize on this period where you can take a breath and really go out and do your homework and speak to people and, give a whole sort of assessment across the whole board about what needs to change at the club to rebuild some of the broken walls, really. And that would be looking at the board, looking at the decision making, and then look at how that transpires down to making key decisions regarding transfers and then managers. Like you have got this opportunity to have a breather and assess and see what's out there and talk to managers, see what the latest, because football management changes a lot and the style of play changes a lot. The way things are run changes a lot. So you need to make sure you try and keep at the forefront of how decisions are made in the modern way of running a football club as well. So there needs to be a lot of diligence in that sense as well. So I would like to see somebody, I wouldn't be against somebody like what we did with Enzo. We've done our homework. We've sort of strategize the way we want to play, the ethos we want to set in the club, the discipline that we want to project into the club, which I understand has just fallen to the side because, like, from the Brendan days, the discipline's not great, the fitness isn't great. I know Dean Smith was horrified at how unfit the players were when he came in. So there's a lot that needs to be built in order to give the platform and right springboard for the next manager to execute his plans properly. So it just needs a lot of work and a lot of consideration, and that needs a little bit of time, like another knee-jerk reaction. I think we said before, Chris, on our show when Cooper was sacked, that decision to who appoint next was so critical. It was absolutely critical for loads of reasons, not just about Premier League survival, but in terms of the steering of the club. It was just critical, and it's sometimes you're forced into a corner and you have to make a quick decision, and sometimes they can go right and sometimes they can go wrong. I completely get that, but they are being presented with an opportunity to say, look, the season's not gone to plan, but we've got some time here to, try and hatch a better one.
Yeah. And what was I just saying about Ant? I've only just got to put that comment up, and I think it was to say everybody. Ant with his big wooden spoon there, I think. Look, the ramifications, like we said before, of us getting relegated financially are scary. And I think we're going to have to sell, whether we wanted to or not, just to sort of kind of try and balance PSR. Look, Burnett is not going to be here anyway because he's obviously a lone player. We can finally get rid of Edouard. Who are the players do you think, and I think there's an obvious one or two, but who are the players do you think that will get us some money in?
Hermanson, Bill Allen, Wilfred Ndidi, I think. As far as I'm aware, Wilfred Ndidi has a release clause of about £15 million if we get relegated. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. A relegation release clause. That will be activated. I would be very surprised if it isn't activated. Hermanson, I'd be extremely surprised if he's still in next season. I think he's going to go. Although, unfortunately, we're probably looking at a lower fee than we were 4 or 5 months ago. Back in the year, kind of October, November, it looked like we'd be able to get. People were talking of 60, 70, 80 million for Mads Hermanson. I don't think we'd get anywhere near that. To be honest with you, with what's happening now, maybe 30, 40 would be a good return. We bought him for 5, I think, 6, 7 million, something like that. So that's a good profit. We were joking on our channel the other day about Bilal. he's not doing himself any favors at the moment. That's for sure. His performance levels have dropped, and maybe there won't be as many clubs in for him as a lot of us thought. A couple months ago. I think he's been one of the shining lights this season, especially the second half of the season. But you just never know. Maybe some clubs will think it's a bit early to take a punt on him. If we were able to keep him, I mean, that's 25 goals and combined goals and assists in the Championship next season. I think he's a real talent, and he's far too good. I think he'd better Dewsbury Hall's season last year. He's that good. So yeah, I think the obvious ones are Hermanson and probably Ndidi, just because of that release clause. And then after that, mate, anything goes. You might get some German or Italian clubs looking at the likes of Wout Fass, Vestergaard. I think I read in January that Wout Fass is definitely leaving this summer.
Oh, if there is a God, please let that be true.
But on the other hand, do you know what Leicester City are like with player sales? They make it difficult. They do. I mean, some people will look at it as, the club just trying to get the best deal possible. But at some point, you've got to just cut your losses and say, this ain't going to work. I mean, Dennis Pratt, you remember he should have been gone 2 years before he did, finally. That was one that lingered around the club for too long. There could be another situation like that. I mean, apparently Luke Thomas, there was an offer for him for 5 million. It's a low price, of course it is, but I'd probably take it at this point with some of these players. His contract runs out, soon. So it's, at some point you have to cut your losses, get rid of players that clearly are never going to make it at the football club and start again.
Why argue over £1 million if you're getting somebody off the wage bill that's not going to help? Exactly. Say hi to Jack. Final whistle. Big changes need to be made. Starting planning now. When I thought nobody could actually get any worse than Ant, Kunal, I want you to go and sit on the naughty step. I'm sorry, you go sit on that naughty step till the end of the show, and you don't come back anywhere near. I might allow you back into the next one, but no, that's just nasty. That's just nasty. And again, this was touched on earlier. We will be in the Championship with some old, tired, some will say experienced players like Ayo, Dakova Reed, Wink, Skip, FaZe, Cody, etc. Will these actually be a help or a hindrance?
A hindrance, because I think you look this year and we brought experience in. Experience is only good if they're not completely finished as players. So I don't think that there's much positive there, to be honest. And I'd like to see us actually be quite ruthless with trying to get rid of these players. And like, if they're not in whoever the manager's plans are when they come in, put them in the under 23s, really try and force them out of the club, because I think we've been far too nice for far too long. So the way I'd like to see it next year is we've got a lot of good young players out on loan at the moment and coming through. It's like, if you are one of those players that the manager doesn't see as part of his plans, really make an active effort to make them not want to be here. But I struggle to see how any of them are really going to be much of an asset, apart from Vestergaard, which I know sounds strange, but we saw that he could do the job in the Championship last year.
Yeah. That's a point. That's one. And very nicely leads me on to Kate's next question. With a possible transfer embargo, it's almost like you knew what the question was coming up for. And with a possible transfer embargo, we might have to rely on youth. Would that be such a bad thing? But if we keep Rude, will we see any of them?
I don't know. I feel like we've been asking the youth question for a couple of managers now, to be honest. I would like to see that happen. It's about time Seagrave threw us a bone and let us have some youth that we can filtrate into the senior team. I don't really understand why it's not happened, to be honest. We keep reading and seeing some of the performances of some of these youngsters, and we just need to try them out. I think we've spoken on BCG before about Matt Piper said a few weeks ago that when he was tried as a youngster, he wasn't intimidated. He wasn't thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to be the one to blame if we lose again because I've made my debut. Like, he was thinking that actually this is my one and only possibly chance to make it into the first team. You've got one chance to make a good impression. You're going to fly out the blocks. You're going to put your effort in. You're going to be fearless. You're going to think you can take on the world. And we need quite a lot of that right now. We've got nothing in the team that would suggest that they've got any of that kind of thing flowing through their blood at the minute. So I would definitely pick a fearless, naive, ambitious, skillful 18-year-old. Why not? It didn't do some of these clubs in the past any problems, did it? So
No.
if you're good enough, you're old enough. So
I've said many times, haven't I, on this channel that, you know, if Wayne Rooney had been breaking through at Leicester, he wouldn't have made that breakthrough yet. You know, that's how bad we are.
And in like 1920, 2021, you could perhaps understand a bit more if they weren't utilised, because the starting 11 was actually, we'd hit a bit of a sweet spot for a period of time. But now we don't even know what a sweet spot looks like. And everybody is just pulling out these 2 or 3 out of 10 performances week in, week out. Like that, you cannot do any worse than some of what we've seen.
No.
And sometimes, like JJ, I think JJ's a great player. I think he does have quality there, and he's just took an absolute battering this season, and he's just done. This season is done. He wants the curtain to come down and it just to end as quickly as possible. So put someone in who's not been mentally battered like that, even if they're 18. I'm like,
well, this is why I was saying if we do get rid of Rude now and bring somebody in with a long-term strategy as being the manager that can maybe bring us back up at some point, he can bring the youth in. And he can give them that sort of opportunity before we have to worry about throwing them in the pot. Because it doesn't matter, like you say, how badly. You know, you can go and say, it doesn't matter if you play badly. We're down. Don't worry. Just go out, enjoy yourself, and show me what you can do. Lots, appreciate you've got to probably go in a minute. But next season, I did actually say this last night, I would look forward to, sort of across the middle, maybe a Mavadidi El Kanous Fatawu partnership.
I mean, it would tear the league apart. It would, you know. We, you know, and just going back to your earlier question as well to Anne, you know, I still think Ayew and De Cordova-Reid, I still think they would be very good championship players, as would Skip, as was Vestergaard and Fass, although he had a few dodgy moments. He was good. You know, we've seen now firsthand the gap. You know, the gap in quality between the two divisions. And even Ayew on his day for Leicester this season has been all right. So I think they would be absolutely more than capable in the Championship. With regards to youth, look, there needs to be a clear pathway for the young players into the first team. And, you know, we were speaking about this last night and saying it's not even for Munger or Evans. You want to think of the kids who are like 5 years old right now, who are going to grow up, you know, at Leicester, playing for the Leicester Academy, Leicester youth teams. They want to, you know, they should see examples of the past that have come through the academy, been given that chance and gone and played for the first team, and then maybe playing for Real Madrid one day. You never know, right? So, you know, I just think there needs to be that pathway. And at the moment, you know, we're hearing that apparently Rude is doing all he can to get Munger to stay. Is he? You know,
I actually said on that Munger point. I actually said to Rob Tanner last night, if we play him just for say one game, that will increase his value. Yeah. If it goes to a tribunal, so why aren't we? What have we got to lose? You know, and I've got to say, have you been drinking, by the way, Locks?
I've had a beer. Why?
I just want to know, you just said that at one point FaZe was good. And I'm just thinking, was that when I was in Australia? Because I don't remember seeing that.
Mate, I hate him as much as you do, but he's, you know, this is the gap in quality that we keep talking about. You know, the gap is so massive now that you drop down to the Championship, and even the shittest of players in the Premier League will make an impact of some kind in the Championship. So, yeah, it's I get your point. But I don't think he'll be here anyway, to be honest, Fass in particular. No. And I'm looking forward to the day he is not a Leicester player.
I will go to church on Sunday, Sunday after he leaves this club. Lots of you got to go, mate.
Yes, yeah, mate. Sorry, yeah. It's been lovely,
that's fine. You did say. No, appreciate you coming on. Just give a shout out as to where people can find you, as if they don't know anyway?
Yeah. Blue ticket glasses. Stuff. A few different videos and streams every week. Plenty of stuff. So yeah. Did I scare Ant off then?
No, it's me trying to get ready for you going.
But yeah. Cheers for having me, guys. Much appreciated. Yeah. I'll see you soon. Hopefully.
See you soon, Locks. Take care, buddy.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
All right. What I was trying to do was this. There you go. You see, when it works, it works. Locks did say that he had to go earlier, and thank him for joining us. Look, as it's in that order now, let's go to the lady with the big knickers first. With the point, I'm not letting you forget that. Well, I'm ignoring after his Sean Dyche comments. I'm ignoring Ant altogether.
The thing is, you think I'm joking about Sean Dyche? I'll be buzzing if he comes in.
Little do you know, or you might know, I've actually been saying that Sean Dyche should come in now for the rest of the season, and he probably is the guy that could take us up again.
Yeah, I think long term I'll be buzzing with Sean Dyche, but again, I'll be in the minority there.
Has this actually started to affect me now? Because I'm actually looking at Scott Parker thinking, you know what? He's not doing a bad job, is he? Tell me I'm mad, Kate. Please tell me I'm mad.
Yeah, I mean, he would not be anywhere near my list at all, but he has got previous experience doing it, hasn't he? But
11 goals conceded for Burnley this season.
He's not scored a lot, has he?
No, but they're third in the table.
Well, yeah, they are. That is true. It's not automatic, though, is it?
No.
Anyway, no, I don't. I'm not a massive fan.
Well, the last question, and then we'll just quickly go to some questions that I've saved from the chat. And he's typing another comment out, Ant, isn't he? I can see him. I hope he's typing another comment out. The other things he could be doing with his hands is a little bit worrying. Yeah, stop it, Ant. Mother's spoken. Yeah. So the possible points deduction, Kate, first of all, management plans and transfer embargo awaiting us if we do go down. I won't use the way that Locks described it again. Can you see us coming straight back up? But if we did come straight back up, would that be a bad thing? Because, would it be better to have next season and then maybe another season to rebuild? Because we see the likes of Norwich that were up and down.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously always better and more lucrative if we come up straight away into the Premier League. I don't think the parachute payments are anywhere near proportionately what they were 10, 15 years ago in terms of covering the cost of leading the Premier League. The Ginger Mourinho. So it's obviously the natural process to try and work back to returning to the Premier League. That's got to be the objective of being in the Championship. Being in Championship obscurity like Forest for years and years is just not something that is going to, I don't know, it's not going to push us on financially, is it really? I know what you're saying, perhaps, from a footballing point of view, in days of old when PSR wasn't an issue and finances weren't such a key player in the football game, then it might have been a wise thing to think about the next 2 to 3 year plan. But football is so short-sighted across the board that you just have to, when you get relegated, the objective has to be to come straight back up into the Premier League. I don't like that. I think the Premier League for me has been really miserable this season. And my mate at work is a really big Leeds fan, and he's already thinking, I'm dreading if we come back up because we're going to get absolutely rinsed every week. And
is that what he said?
That's what he said. He's like, he just doesn't enjoy the prospect of the Premier League and also the boring style of football that seems to emulate from the Premier League as a more common occurrence now. So, but it's the golden boot, isn't it, of football leagues? So we want to get up there. We want to be able to push the club on financially, and we want to enjoy the good times again. But I think a 2 to 3 year spell in the Championship could be okay, but the objective has got to be returning to the Prem.
And you're being saved with your Ginger Mourinho jokes by John, who says Southgate with Dyche as his understudy. Parker conceded 9 goals in one game, 3 seasons at Anfield. Look, 3 seasons ago. I mean, look, Vestergaard and what was the other guy called that we got from Southampton conceded 9 goals, and we still got them. I mean, look, I joked about Sean Dyche. I actually, like I've just said, I think he would be. But do you think if we come back up too soon, that could be further detrimental? Basically, the same questions I just put to Kate.
I agree with a lot of what Kate said, and particularly like a few years ago, I think being in the Championship for a couple of years and you can rebuild, you come up stronger. I don't think that's the case now. It's like if we go, well, I say if, I'm as positive as you now, Chris. When we go down, I think you've got to come straight back up. But when we come back up, or if we come back up, the investment needs to be there in the squad, and not just spending money for the sake of spending money. The investment and the recruitment needs to be there in the squad. And I don't think that was in the summer. I think that was a big part of the issue. So it's like we know that there'll probably be a massively different squad now to next season in large parts. So when we start the rebuild, it's got to be with the aim of getting that squad back to the Premier League. So if we go up first time, which will probably be quite difficult because, as we've mentioned about what the EFL have waiting for us, but it should be looking to build a squad ready for the Premier League, not just, I think, get signing players just to get you out of the Championship. Because I honestly think, and like we've seen the difference in quality between the Premier League and the Championship. Like last year, this team tore the Championship to shreds. This year, it's an absolute joke. Admittedly, I think we've had 2 much worse managers. But Fatui will be back next season. Mavididi, those 2 players that tore the Championship to shreds. I think Oliver Skip will probably be a decent Championship midfielder. I think Harry Winks was probably the best midfielder in the Championship last year. Again, players that probably are on that borderline, are they Premier League level? I think particularly Harry Winks hasn't showed it this year. But we've got the core of what's already a very good Championship team. So I feel like with the right investment and the right recruitment, then I think it is a good thing if we can come straight back up. But the worry is if you're in the Championship for 1 year, if you don't come up the first year, then it's very easy to turn into a Watford where you're in the Championship for a lot of years. Because if you don't come up that first time, you don't keep those players that you're trying to rebuild with.
Or you do at Leeds, which is where, and like Leicester did when we won, when we lost in the playoffs, and you storm it the following season.
I feel like that's.
I'm only playing devil's advocate here.
I know you are, but I feel like that's become less and less the norm because the 3 relegated teams are always going to be so much stronger now because of the difference between the Premier League and the Championship. I know there's the outliers like Luton who are just absolutely sort of go against everything that I'm saying. But for me, it's just like 90% of things. It comes down to recruitment.
Yeah, no, totally. Kate, personally, you get the parachute payments for up to 3 years. If you come back up, then you've only got it for that 1 season. But a question here that Prashant's asked, would Vardy be part of the team management in the Championship? Or would you, I don't think so, because let him go off and get his badges and be part of the backroom, right backroom team, behind Andy King to get his badges. But, like Ant said earlier, and I don't know if you agree with what Ant was saying, you need people that aren't emotionally connected to the club.
Yeah, I think Ant was specifically drawing on the director of football then, which I completely agree, because you need a fresh pair of eyes. You need to be totally unbiased, both mentally and emotionally, in terms of the job that you have to do for the club and making some pretty difficult decisions with what you sign. But in terms of Jamie Vardy, I personally can't see him in management full stop when he retires. I can see him just enjoying his life and maybe doing some punditry. But similarly, I think we missed a trick not having Albrighton and Wes Morgan as part of the club setup. And I know people get angry about it or a bit perhaps slag the club up about it. And the club may be at fault there and there wasn't an opening for them, but they have gone back to what they would call home. It's not like they've gone to, Man United or a random club. They've gone back to their home kid clubs. So that's really understandable. But for Jamie, I would really like to see if you know, when's good and ready, for them to carve out some kind of role for him that could actually be the liaison in the official capacity that everyone thinks he is right now between the players and the board, because it could actually really be quite important. Because Jamie isn't the kind of person to get bothered about ruffling feathers. He really isn't. He will say his piece. He will always have Leicester City Football Club at his heart. He has no allegiance to any manager. The only allegiance he has to is top. So I think that could be quite a good position for Jamie to move into in a formal capacity, because it seems like he perhaps even does some of that now, potentially, to be honest. But I just can't see him being in the coaching setup, but I might be completely wrong with that.
No, some players don't do it, don't work well as managers, you know. Wayne Rooney, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard.
People don't want it, you know, like Rio Ferdinand or Mika Richards or Roy Keane tried his hand at it and then just thought, you know what, I'm boxing.
Alan Shearer, your favourite.
Alan Shearer was bloody awful.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that they keep Jamie as some ambassador role in some capacity. When he's ready,
the new Alan Birchinall, perhaps.
Yeah, he might want to go and live his life for a few years, you know, like he was a genuine, normal working man up until the age of 26, 27. So there'll be things he wants to do with his life that perhaps hasn't crossed the mind of many footballers, because they haven't done that normal working man life. He's got very small children, and he's got enough money. So I could see him kind of just, you know, taking some time out and then coming back. And if he wants to come back, then Leicester City should absolutely make some kind of role for him if he doesn't want to do his badges.
Yeah. Rico is an Everton fan there, and he's going back to the Sean Dyche thing. I mean, my thoughts with Sean Dyche is he's not the guy that's going to win us the FA Cup again. He's not the man that's going to get us into Europe. But look, he kept Everton up. And it's all about, I think, if we're not going to go for a long-term appointment of that stopgap, I mean, I don't know whether you were being serious when you said you'd be happy with Sean Dyche walking in.
I'd love him.
You were. Oh, if it happens, we know who to blame, everybody.
The thing is, you know, we say about youth, and like whilst we're on the topic of Sean Dyche, you look at his time at Burnley, the amount of players that he improved, like young players that he developed, and they went on to do very well. Like that's where we need to get back to again, of like either players coming through the academy and being sold on or being implemented in the first team, or buying players in and then actually improving whilst they're out at Leicester. Because we know as a club we're never going to be one of those clubs where you can just buy the finished article. It's just the reality of what we are. But with Sean Dyche, he's tried and tested in the Championship. He's got Burnley promoted twice from the Championship, so he's got that experience. I also think his brand of football gets a bit of a unfair criticism. I think when you look at Burnley in the Championship, they actually played some very good football, but he knew what his team's strengths were and he knew what they weren't, and he played to what the strengths were. I think as an appointment, if we start in the Championship and the average manager now isn't in a job for longer than 3 years, so if he was to come in and get us up and then keep us up, and then maybe beyond that, maybe 3 seasons in, keep us up beyond that and stabilise us again, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Because if you look at Russell Martin's a name that's being linked at the moment. If we go for Russell Martin, I still think that we'll play some of the best football in the Championship, but we're not in a situation where we could, with the players that we've got and what we've got available, to come up and play this expansive style of football. I think we almost need to take a reality check and say we need to build from the ground up again.
Yes.
You mentioned the FA Cup and the good times, but I feel like they're so far away and you need to build the foundations to be able to get back up towards the top.
Yeah. Nick makes a very good point there. What does Mrs. Vardy say? that will sort his future out. Last question I'm just going to throw at you here. Again, I'll come to you first. I completely disagree with this one. Sylvia put it in earlier, and I saved this. Very last question. Like I say to you, first of all, Kate, Top needs to go. He is committed to this club. He has put millions in. He's not going to walk away. And I don't think he should. For me, personally, in my opinion, I don't think he should do. Whether he needs to change the staff below him, including the Rudkins and the Whelans and the Nevilles and those, that's another question. But we don't need him to sell, do we?
Not in my opinion, no. Like, out of everybody who talks and loves Leicester, there is no one person more financially invested in our club than all the fans, and anybody is Top. And he keeps proving that he has committed to the club. It doesn't mean he's going to make the right decisions all the time. It sometimes means he's going to drop some clangers for sure. But I think we all just, I would say the majority just wants us to be better. We want him to be better. We want him to learn from some of his mistakes. And this loyalty to John Rudkin, if that's what it is, does seem to be a bone of contention amongst everybody. But we still don't really know what A, that relationship is, and B, exactly what role John Rudkin does and the clout that he has. So for me, Top has proven time and again that he's committed to the club. You've got to be careful what you wish for with owners. Like even on Sunday, like with Man United, all they were doing was chanting the Glazers want the Glazers out. That was the majority of the chant. Like, I don't know whether, I think a lot of people thought on TV it was Rudkin out chants, but it wasn't. It was Glazers out chants coming from the Man United end. And Top is just, he's just so committed to this club. You know, he's cleared so much debt, which is more than any other owner has done in the Premier League. Like, if the Chelsea owners leave tomorrow, they are in a boatload of debt. And bottom line is, for me, I am never in a position, and I would never assume to be in a position, that I can tell a guy who owns a business that I don't own that he should sell it. That's the bottom line. Whether I'm emotionally invested or not, I don't have the audacity, in my opinion, to tell a guy who owns a company that he should sell it.
Would you agree, Ant?
I agree with a huge amount of what was said. The one thing that I do worry about is we say about the people below him. It's like, it feels like it's exactly the same conversations as 3 years ago. So it's like, how many times can we keep having those conversations about the people below him? Because at some point, there has to be a level of accountability, because there's only one person keeping them in place. And like, I struggle with the debt thing. I know you say about clearing the debt, but it's like we keep getting into those situations of debt because of people that Top is trusting below him. So I don't think King Power needs to go, and I feel like they've given us some of the best memories I think we'll ever have supporting Leicester, and I think we've got to be incredibly grateful for particularly what Vichai did for this club, and not just the club, but the area of Leicester as well. My only concern is that I just feel like it's like a dog chasing their tails, doing the same thing time and time again with the conversations of the people below him. So how many times and how long are we going to keep saying that? Yeah. But like ultimately, like short answer, no, I don't think he needs to sell, but there needs to be a restructure below him. Yeah.
Guys, thank you very, very much. I know Kate's got to go off and wash her underwear. And
it's been washed, it's drying. I just didn't want everyone seeing it.
Sorry, drying your underwear. Sorry, and Ant's got to go off and check his clock. We'll be back next week with the same show. I know there's no football this weekend, but I'm sure there'll be something for us to talk about. And it is 7 o'clock. Now you're witnessing here, Kate.
Yeah.
7 o'clock. Yes, you know.
Got it. 7:30.
Better to be half an hour early than half an hour late. He was just very well prepared, I think.
Exactly. Someone appreciates it.
I appreciate that.
Oh my God, you two get a room. Thanks very much, both of you. Have a good week off with no football. Hey, at least we've got to have a weekend ruined, can we? I'll see you all next week. Take care, guys. Thanks very much. Cheers. And I got rid of myself there. Let me do that. That's what I wanted to do. So thanks to Ant's Leicester fan channel. Should have said his link is in the description below. Remember that if you do go over and watch any of his videos, if he says it's starting at 7, be there at 7:30. And you will be fine. Relegation looms. It's just a matter. I honestly think that if Leicester City was one of our owners' beloved horses, they would have been put down by now. I'm back on Thursday in some form or another. I don't know what I'm doing, but I am back on Thursday. I think we're having a look at the Premier League and discussing with 9 games to go, who's going up, who's going down. It's fucking obvious, really, and who's going for Europe, etc., etc., etc. Thanks to everybody that's been in the chat. Really do appreciate it. Thanks to everybody that is listening via your favourite podcast platform, whatever that is. Thank you for lending us your ears. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, click that notification bell, and then you'll never miss another show again. Thanks, everybody. Take care. See you on Thursday.
5.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.
I owe this gentleman an apology. There's still nearly 50 of you in, and you should have. Look, I'm old. You're short. I'm old. I have memory problems at my age. Dementia is setting in. You wanted to give a shout out to your charity run. I am so sorry, mate. Please go for it.
Yeah, so on my Twitter, so @_LCFC, there is a Just Giving page, because me and one of my mates are trying to raise as much money as we can for Macmillan Cancer. We're going to be running Tough Mudder and potentially a marathon. So if you could donate to that, that would be fantastic.
Look, do you want to share it to my Twitter as well, mate? And I'll give it a retweet on there.
Yeah, I'll have to do it after we finish, because if I try and go on Twitter whilst we're live, my laptop will explode.
No, that's fine, mate. Do it then and I'll share it. Stay online, we'll have a chat. Thanks so much, and I apologise for that. Do what you can, guys. Show out your support, and we'll see you soon.